All right, let's work on our focus on our last unit for the school year already. It's crazy. I told you guys it would go by really fast. We're going to be talking about climate change, global climate change, how humans affect our Earth, our planet. Just real quick, I did start grading the test. I'm probably about almost halfway done, I want to say. So far, the average hasn't been the greatest. And this is actually, it is different because I haven't been there, but this is actually probably the easiest test in terms of me literally using questions directly from the study guide. Like, give me examples of this. And then the questions are to fill in the blanks. And I could tell the students that did actually work on the study guide and other ones that didn't, because it's very similar. The average isn't the highest. If you guys want to retake it, right, you can do so when I'm back. So you guys can take a look at the test and get ready for it when I'm back. You guys will still have some time, so if you want to take a look at the test when I'm there, study and everything, you will still have time to do both things, okay? And then redo your study guide, do a new one, whatever it is. All right, so let's talk about succession and biodiversity. This is we're going back a little bit because hopefully you'll recall that we talked about this probably like halfway last semester, halfway through. We talked about primary and secondary succession. It was a little confusing, but also we were a little rushed in that portion. We did talk about biodiversity as well. So let's do these quick notes. So succession. What is succession? We have two types. We have primary and secondary succession. Primary succession Gael is here with me, working on these notes. Oh, let's see. Primary succession. Primary succession, what is it? It happens, well, actually, let's do the definition of what ecological succession is first, before we dive into the first and second. Ecological succession. Ecological succession. What is ecological succession? It is a series of events that happen in a community over time. Right? And this can include, it's different events, right? But the events come along with such as new species migration, population change, or species dying out. Ooh, my writing is bad. Okay. Now let's do the other ones. So we have primary succession. What happened there? Why is it connecting? That's so weird. So primary succession. This is when some kind of event happens on an area that's newly exposed. There's nothing really there except rocks. So it happens in on newly exposed surfaces these areas have rocks. So pretty much what you only see there are just like rocks, pretty bare, when a primary succession happens. Now we have a secondary succession. We have a secondary succession. It's happening in disturbed areas where we have remains of previous ecosystems. So it happens in disturbed areas where remains my pencil died. Oh no, there we go. Where remains of previous ecosystems are present. Okay, and again, when we're having these successions, it's just important to take note whether they're the first ones, right, kind of to show up, to happen, where there was only rocks, or some kind of disturbance happened, and we'll talk about it, right? So like a fire, a flood or something. We know there was an ecosystem there, but the disaster, the disturbance messed with everything, and now we're having them build up again. That'd be secondary succession. So let's go to the next page. So let's talk quickly about natural disturbances. And these are all within the same heading, subheading. Natural disturbances. Natural disturbances in healthy ecosystem. Hi, bless you. Hi. In healthy ecosystems. Often reproduce the original climax community. So think about climax community as just like when the community was at its best. It had everything, right? It had the different organisms living there, the plants, the animals, and all that stuff. The community was good. Something happened, so it's trying to go back to where it was. However, if they're human-caused disturbances, so for example, real quick for natural disturbances, sometimes, right, they'll be like, I was reading that there's sometimes like a fire, just a flood that happens naturally every certain number of years. If it's happening by itself, that means it's kind of expected. So the ecosystem is able to get back to where it was. But if it's a human-caused disturbance, right? So if we're the ones causing the fire, or there's just something that we're causing where we're, what's it called? I can't think of the word. I'm not breaking down, but we're cutting down trees. That's what it is. We're cutting down trees. Then it's not necessarily going to go back to where it was, right? We might get some plants back. We might get some organisms that come back and see if they can build an ecosystem, probably where we stop cutting the trees, but it's not going to be the same thing. So human-caused disturbances, the ecosystem may or may not go back. The ecosystem may or may not recover to climax community, to original climax community. Special guest today. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about biodiversity. Remember what biodiversity is? Bio, meaning it has to do with biology, right? So organisms, and then diversity, a variety. So variety in organisms in the ecosystem. We know those are extremely important because the bigger, if you remember that food web that was a mess with that we did with the string, right? Disturbances can cause animals to die. So we need to make sure that we have a high variety or diverse population of different organisms, both animals and plants, to ensure that if there is a disturbance, something happens, they're able to recover and rebuild.